Hello, welcome to the sixth episode of Sam and Voy reviewing Sam's code and discussing the journey of becoming a software developer. Today we've got another shorter episode and not so much digging into code. We're looking into Sam's portfolio website once again and doing a little bit of a review on that, especially from a perspective of it being responsive. I recently accessed his website and noticed that some of them didn't quite react nicely on a mobile phone. So we're going over the differences in how you can test for mobile devices on your web browser. Before talking about a little bit about terminal, something that Sam has been looking into over the last few weeks, and actually getting more in depth into discussing the remove command, the RM, and how it can be potentially extremely dangerous. So some words of advice and warning coming through during today's video, as well as a little bit of a show and tell of how it actually went bad for both me and Sam. Finally, we go to a bit of a different section than usually, as Sam has created a list of questions that he wants to ask himself to be able to figure out the way he would like to see his future shape as a programmer, essentially, and using these questions to kind of narrow down sort of career paths that he could be taking in the future. So he came to ask me as well about maybe sharing some of my thoughts about what kind of question you could be asking yourself and what potential options, what choices could you have in some of these questions. So actually the remainder of the video, we go into that document and try to flesh out some of these questions and answers and trying to help him build this sort of a Q&A model, which you could use to sort of evaluate what sort of career path you'd like to take as a programmer in the future. So yeah, like I say, a little bit short this time, but as usual, we hope you find something helpful and something useful. Enjoy! 3, 2, 1, and we're live. Hello, welcome to the sixth episode of Sam and Voy, reviewing Sam's journey of becoming a software developer. How you doing, Sam?
Good, thanks, mate. Number 6 already.
Time
is flying. Time is flying.
Feels like 100.
Thank you, mate. Yeah. Well, it seems it's probably been 100 hours at least of
easy
of staring at code and the journey. But actually, yeah, I guess if I've done 100 days of code, and I probably did 3 hours on average, I've done way over 100 hours. So.
Definitely, that'll be 300 at least, wouldn't it? Well done.
Exactly, yeah. Plus all the other bits as well.
Good, man.
Yes, doing good, mate. Thank you, mate. How about yourself?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. Yeah, as you know, it was my birthday not long ago, so spent the last weekend pretty much just celebrating it and eating a lot of curry, eating a lot of food, essentially. That was a very food-heavy birthday. Spent 15 hours celebrating, started at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and went home. What time did we get home?
7.
Like 7 in the morning? Mental, yeah. Like,
wow, you young'uns, eh? I can't keep up with you. Yeah, I'd be tired by 5 in the afternoon.
No, 5 in the morning.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Oh,
I'd be
okay.
tired by 5.
So yeah, but yeah, now good. Now I'm recovered. Yeah, pretty good actually. Yeah, pushing on.
Wicked.
Definitely. So over the last week or so, you were, I think, tweaking your portfolio side, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Right.
I took on board some of the suggestions you made, which made a lot of sense, and just spent, probably most of the last week just tweaking those and getting the projects more visible rather than hidden behind animations. So, tweak the portfolio, got it. I would say I'm 99.5% there. There's just a few minor little things that I can do. I mean, this is what I'm learning as well, is there's always going to be something else you can add or tweak or do. So it's knowing when to just say, right, that's it, move on. And I called it the other day. So portfolio is done, ready and rocking, in my opinion.
So you're still pretty much coding almost every day now, aren't you?
Yeah. I think it's because I'm enjoying it a lot more now, and I think because I can do a lot of this stuff. I mean, there's a part of me that doesn't like sitting around doing nothing. So even I have more days off now, but I don't enjoy them as much because there's always a part of me that goes, oh, I could just go and learn something, or I could go and do something,
isn't it?
And it's I want to get used to being comfortable, not doing nothing, but at least not doing anything that involves learning. Because even on my days off, I found I wasn't doing coding learning. I was going back to like psychology and coaching related learning, which is what I always used to do before coding.
Yeah.
But then you also made a valid point that it's not necessarily a bad thing if you're enjoying it. It can be a booster, as I would call, rather than a drainer.
Definitely. Yeah.
So still coding. I'm pretty much still coding every day, but just taking days off more often and being a bit, I think I found myself, I was conscious about what content I was putting up, because I was doing the 100 days of code for, not for social media, but it was on social media. So I kind of wanted to keep some thread of consistency, whereas now I'll just go and, today I'll go and do this, or today I'll go and do that. And I don't care whether it's, well, where's he going? What's he doing that for? What happened to that other project? And it's more just for me and just to keep up that habit of doing stuff every day.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is still some sort of story happening there, because, we finished 100 days of code. Finished 100 days of code with, you pretty much getting to finish that Gulp project and getting into doing the portfolio. And now that you moved from 100 days of code to days of code, right, your own project, you pretty much are doing the portfolio, which is a natural progression from doing all these different projects you did before, right? The portfolio project is going to be done, moving on to maybe applying for some jobs and all that, right? So it all feels like a story to me, and I'm still enjoying, browsing them. Definitely.
Yeah, good point. I think, because you probably don't know this, but I've got a document just called Post 100 Days. And it's just got a list of about 20 different random topics that probably only need about 30 minutes to half an hour each.
Cool, yeah.
And these are things that I wanted to look at, but didn't really fit in the grand scheme of the 100 days of code thread.
Sure.
So they're just sort of odds and sods, I'd call them.
Odds and sods, right.
So I've just got,
English
got a
101.
random, and I figured if I just do days of code, then I've given myself permission to just do whatever I want, whenever I want, which I could have done with 100 days of code. But
probably, yeah.
but again, it's all a learning curve. I've learned so much about my own psychology and how to manage it from doing this challenge, alongside all the actual coding knowledge. I've encountered parts of my psychology which have never really been like tested or prodded. So it's been an interesting journey just to self-reflect on how I react to certain things and how I plan stuff and how I see certain things. So I've learned a lot about myself on this journey.
Look at that. Programming changes the person you are. Spiritual journey. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Honestly, my ability to manage my mental health is tenfold better than it was 3 months ago.
That's
mainly because I
wicked.
didn't really need it. Like I didn't really get triggered that often. But honestly, the amount of moods, frustration and anger periods that I'd been through, I can catch myself when I'm in those moods, and I know what to do to get out of them.
Yeah, okay. So I remember, especially at the beginning, you were going through a lot of these struggles and obviously gone out of them, and you admitted it and talked about it, and we spoke about it ourselves, right, in this call. So fantastic. I mean, I don't know if everybody's experience with coding would be, I don't want to say as dramatic, because probably dramatic isn't the right word, but difficult. I suppose it must have been difficult, right?
Yeah, and I think it's because I'm usually such a chill guy that I think my moods normally they very rarely, they go from like a 7 to a 9. That's about it.
Right. Yeah.
Very rare that I'll go below that, but here I was going like.
Sure, yeah.
It's like, whoa, I don't know what to do here, because I just wasn't used to being that triggered.
Yeah.
So now I'm not saying it doesn't happen anymore, but when it does happen, I can catch it and I can change it rather than just be caught in it.
Okay.
So
cool. That's a good way to see it.
It's been fascinating for me just to see the emotional and the psychological side to this journey.
Perfect. I mean, I'm even more glad that this is the way it turned out for you, mate. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I've learned extra skills. So so portfolio.
Okay. Well, speaking of that, do you wanna maybe take us through the changes that you made to the portfolio, and we can have a look at?
I mean, if you want to fire it up on your screen, and I'll show you.
Sure, let's do that.
The main bits we did. Cool. So when we talked about it, one of the things that we talked about was having too much of the information, almost too many layers deep. It was hidden behind animations and then within other links. So the idea that I took and spent most of last week on was to bring as much information as I can visible from the get-go. So I got rid of those animations and just I wanted to get, well, initially, I mean, I've done 5 projects, but one of them doesn't really have a live site, which was the gulp build. So I thought, well, let me just stick to 4. And then that basically fits nicely when you go full screen, which we aren't at the moment. So when we go on full screen, there'll be all 4 just do, and you can see, firstly, A's done 4 projects. You can see what they're all like. Because here we go. So it's been just a change of strategy from going from sleek and minimal, but you can't see anything, to let's get some information up. Because like I said, the 2 people that are going to be looking at this are going to be recruiters and someone from HR or hiring. Absolutely, and they're both going to need different information. So the recruiter just wants to, I guess, see a portfolio and see you've done some projects. They probably, well, I don't know, they may look at the languages because they're going to be recruiting for people with those specific skills. So these are the things that need to be visible straight off the bat. What else did I change?
No, I mean, in all fairness, like it's you kind of said this, that there's a balance between minimal and providing the right information. It is still extremely minimal as far as portfolio sites go, as far as CVs and resumes and people just showing off what they do, right? This is still extremely minimal. I can show you my embarrassing portfolio site of my own that I was extremely proud of when I built it. As you can tell a while ago by just the youth coming from my face. So you've got quite a lot less content, I would say. The entire section that occupies majority of your portfolio to me is a whole subpage of its own, and here I kind of go and have subpages for all these different things as well. So all things considered, you still have a very minimal portfolio, mate, which looks very sleek and very, very kind of nice. Yeah, so adding that extra information, definitely a good idea. Yeah, you also phrase things differently, haven't you?
Oh, that's interesting. One of the tweaks that I wanted to make was make sure that the hover links were working on the live site and the project notes. One of them doesn't work. That's weird. Yeah, I couldn't figure it out. None of them worked on mine. Oh, yeah. And I can't work out how some of them work and some of them don't.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
No. But they kind of sometimes work and sometimes they don't. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Or maybe...
Baffling. Can't work it out.
I'm so tempted to open the console and try to figure out why, but I won't do that.
No, please do. I think my guess is what's happened is, well, one of the struggles I had with this was working with someone else's SaaS, and I think I've got some classes that are inheriting or, overriding some others. But it could also be that I changed a few things on in the actual Java, in the React index page, and how you use keys and links and stuff. So I couldn't work it out, but I thought I could spend 3 days on this, but it's not going to be worthwhile. People can see it's a link.
I suppose,
the hover, because the hover state works fine on those social media icons at the top of the page and each individual page, but those 3 were just baffling me.
I know why. I know what's the problem. Okay, right. By the way, did you know about this? The enforcing a state on an element?
No.
Super helpful. So if you want to, because if you're testing things that happen when you hover, well, obviously it only will happen when your mouse is over here. What if you want to, have your mouse around there? We can force a state on an element that will make it behave like if you interacted with it in a particular way. So if you right click on that element, go force state, you have active, hover, focus, visited, and focus within. So in this case, I'm just clicking hover on all 3 of them. And this way we'll be able to see what exactly is happening. So I think the reason why they behave like this is that they have an overriding CSS directive that takes over what happens here with the CSS that gives them the the purple color, and that actually comes with this visited tag. Do you know what that is?
It's basically after it's been clicked, it tells you what color
correctly,
to revert to.
Yeah,
because they were purple at some stage.
That's right. In most of web, it will be like if you see a link that hasn't been clicked on, it's blue, and the moment you click on it, it goes purple. You know what I'm talking about, right? So this is a similar concept. And in here, indeed, we are overriding the hover color with that visited color, simply because I came to this page before and I've clicked on some of these. I've interacted with your page. My Chrome remembered my choices. And for instance, maybe I have not clicked on this portfolio buttons here, but it seems like I've clicked on some of the other ones, right? Well, now I've disabled that directive. So let's see. Yeah, see, for instance, I probably went to the live site.
I even put that. I think that's even my bit of code as well.
Yeah, I mean, so essentially, you may want to be distinguishing between, what happens once you do visit a page. So you may want to make it a little bit different. I mean, maybe I overdid it even, right? So you do distinct. You do distinguish, links that you have clicked on, but then you want to add another directive that happens when you do both. When a link is both visited and hovered. So I think you can do that. I hope you can, and I'm just going to copy that. So if a link has been visited but nonetheless gets hovered, it will still get that, right? So now we are seeing both of these states being handled here, right? So if it's a link that hasn't been visited and hovered, this one will kick in. If it's a state, if it's a link that has been visited but we're not hovering over it, it'll be that one. And now if it's both visited and hover, then we'll be getting that last directive.
That's what I'm looking for, yeah.
Yeah, so you're just missing that last bit just there.
Brill.
Yeah.
That explains that. Okay, so that's one tweak sorted.
Yeah, done.
The only other minor sort of tweak I was going to add was popping out those GIFs by clicking on them just so it enlarges it, so people want to actually see in a bit more detail. Because when you come onto that landing page, you can see their GIFs, but you can't really see what they're doing unless you're on a big screen.
Yes, that's a fair point. Yeah. Okay. So what do you think to do to fix it?
Minor thing. I briefly looked into it. I think there's a React plug you can use. I can't even remember what it's called, but it makes a modal, so it just pops it out in a modal.
Okay.
But yeah, minor things. So I've still got a lot of. Yeah, so I added the tech used section. Initially, I was going to use icons, and I may still do. But there weren't really icons for things like DOM manipulation and API use.
Open weather or API. Yeah, I think text is good, mate. It's very little text, and it's well formatted. It's readable, at a glance. So if you fancy it, I suppose you could do that. But you're right. Yeah, there will be some things that you won't have the description for, right?
Yeah, exactly. So what else did I do? Yeah, and I updated all the READMEs. So all the READMEs going to super detail on what each project does, what I learned, etc. So if you click any one of those README links, that'll open it up in a new.
By that you mean the project and notes learnings, right? Project notes and learnings, yeah. These are the README files.
So if you click on any of those, it will open up directly into the README, and it's a lot more concise. So there's still some of that information brought over to the portfolio page, but here it's listed and in a lot of detail.
Nice. Yeah, decent.
If people want to go there, so.
Right, and you even put the original spec, right? What was the requirement for this? No, perfect.
Exactly.
Link to your Instagram, 100 days of code, 39 to 56. Nice. Yeah, I think that definitely works better. You're no doubt moving in the right direction. Yeah, if I really had to add anything to this, would be more based on personal preferences than truly this is the way. Yeah, I think I personally would provide more information here, but I think the way you're doing it also makes sense. Project notes and learnings. Yeah, I think that's a relatively clear way to indicate, here you can find out more. Obviously, if I click on source code, I'll find similar information to this, wouldn't I?
Yes and no. That the source code takes you directly to the master branch repo, whereas the learnings take you directly to the README.
To the README, yeah. But
the README is technically visible from the other page.
Yeah.
But if people won't. I still have to again improve the UX and say this exists and this is here, because if I just leave it as source code, people might not ever scroll down and even see that README, which contains a lot of valuable info.
Okay, so here I would make an assumption that if somebody does reach your GitHub page, they will almost always scroll down to the README.
Okay,
I think almost everybody does that. Nobody would stop here and just start clicking on this without at least doing that.
Yeah, I probably would though. That's it.
Oh, right. I was like, who are you waving at?
Yeah, but again, I'd rarely look at other people's repos.
Okay,
just haven't got around to it yet. I haven't really done any open source or whatever. So
sure.
I guess I've used my own experience to assume that nobody reads the README. But
oh god, no.
Either way, I thought it would be good to have. I mean, I did think of possibly having like drop downs on the portfolio, like on in each individual project, so you could click a little drop down and then it would expand a bigger paragraph. So on the page load, it'll still be compressed and yay size, but you'd have the option to go into more detail using a drop down or something that expands with a bit more text in there.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, yeah, like if because I wouldn't put it on every single one of these items to expand what is more, what really the live site is, what this is. But like if here in a corner you simply had more, and that would just, whack this one more, that one item much bigger and bring a lot more description and information about that.
That's a good point, yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be reasonable. Again, like if I may, because again, I already admitted that I'm not very proud of my portfolio itself anymore. Well, I think it's not bad, frankly, but I kind of liked getting into details about each one of my projects as much as I could right here, rather than outside of it. Theoretically, I could have leave some links around here to the projects I did. Yeah, that if I were to build it again, but this is just my perspective, I would still fill in more details. Like I would make each of these items, as big as a page almost. So you'd have one massive one over here. I scroll down one page down. You have a second one that's also quite big, right?
Yeah.
Because my logic here is it's very little effort for me to just scroll one page and see another project. It's very little effort, and it's arguably more effort to click on something, go to another page, wait for it to load, and then figure out that I have to scroll down. I mean, in this case, it's quite clear right here. But if I click on the source code, then in this case, I would have to scroll down a little bit. So, but then I know you want to follow that minimal design. We kind of spoke about this last time, so I don't want to repeat myself again. But I would flesh this out and say, a page. When I mean a page is obviously as much as fits into my full screen Chrome.
Yeah.
At the time, right? So that much content I would fill in with one of these apps, and I would have I would definitely have a bigger than GIF, so you won't have to do that model thing, because generally models they're not great. In a simple app like the one you have right now, it's actually fine if you just have a model when you click on a GIF, but as a sort of thing that you may remember for the future generations, is that you probably want to be avoiding models when you're building just apps in general. And apps that do use models a ton, actually there is a name for them. They called Model City, because everything is in a model. So it's kind of a bad thing. Like it has a bad connotation in general.
Okay.
Yeah. So that kind of solves one problem. If you did make it full screen, then you can make that as big as you want, full screen even, and then underneath just put more information. And if I want to learn about your next project, well, I can clearly just scroll down. And with 4 projects, you'll have 4 pages long, right? That's nothing. That's very, very little.
Good point. Yeah. I think there was 2 factors that were here. It was trying to get everything above the fold, and also the fact I'm using an 11-inch screen. So I sort of not neglected to think that other people are going to be viewing this on a desktop screen, so to speak.
But kind of, didn't you though? What I'm thinking is that if I do look at it from a massive sort of screen,
Yeah.
then I'll be looking at, at this, or,
Yeah.
possibly even.
Yeah. So I didn't take that kind of into consideration, because obviously that now I've only used half the page. So I could have easily made bigger things. So it's like, it's almost like I've designed 11-inch first rather than mobile first, if that makes sense.
Correct. Yeah.
I've made it look good on my screen and then worked backwards from there.
Yeah. See, so if I had, a 4K screen, that's the content I'd be looking at, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, a 4K screen would be bigger than what I'm looking at right now, but it may not adapt as nicely. Whereas, if hypothetically one of these guys, I mean, I don't want to like mess with your CS, but if one of these guys was as big as a page, right? That could, to some degree, maybe mitigate that. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Truth be told, I do like the way you made it anyway. I do like this too. So, is it just a bit of like, UX, struggle? Do we want to keep it like that, minimal and kind of nice? It's not bad, honestly. But if you want to, you could possibly make it better. I mean, maybe.
Yes. Well, I've made a note, if not just a mental note, to consider screen sizes a bit more, because I think we've just demonstrated, if I was building this on a a bigger screen, it would have come out more like you explained. It's only because I forgot that I was working on a smaller screen myself.
Interesting, right? Yeah.
So that was like my default. That was like, that's where I start.
You're
so
on
I
11
kind of
inch.
neglected to. Yeah, I'm on an 11-inch Air, like a tiny little thing.
Yeah.
So full screen for me is obviously different.
Yeah.
To full screen on other devices, and I guess most people are either now on a bigger screen or a mobile, so they're either side of me.
I mean, I think you've got laptop size screens, so 11 to 15.6. Then you've got a significant jump to like monitor screens, which would be starting at what, 21 inch, 22 inch. I don't know how big monitor screens are these days.
I want to say 19 upwards probably.
Maybe maybe that. But considering laptop size screens is also very important, let's be honest, right? So it's good you do keep that in mind. Don't know. But frankly,
if anything, I've learned to consider more options rather than just design for me in mobile, because even even if I don't change this, I'll keep it in mind next time I design something, because I kind of I didn't. I sort of assumed that my full screen equals full screen for everyone else, and it'd all be relative. But obviously,
isn't it? It's not easy to go there.
Which it depends on how you set up your CSS. You can get it relative depending on what units you use. So
Correct.
I guess mine isn't. It's not. Is it fluid? Can't remember. There's a word for
responsive.
Yeah, I think there's a different. Yeah. Either way, there's a couple of tweaks I can do, but I'm not going to bother doing them at this stage. So.
Okay, cool.
But definitely, I have taken on board, for future efforts.
Cool. Yeah, fair play. Like I say, it's good. I like it. It's nice. I like the icon as well. One thing I thought I'd mention is that I did go into your page on my mobile phone, and some of them broke a tiny bit. So let's see if I do go to something like an iPhone X maybe, and I refresh. This time it worked nicely. On my phone, the text kind of overlays outside of that bit. I believe here it didn't quite. Yeah, see, that happens on the weather app too. It just kind of jumps out. Yeah. So I suppose I can navigate around, but then that doesn't quite encapsulate it. So yeah, just in case somebody would be browsing your page. On a mobile phone. Funny enough, the Firebase one is the one that adapted the best, and it was the crudest out of
because it's got nothing in it.
It's got nothing in it, yeah. So,
it's dawned on me as well that instead of using to simulate mobile version, all I've been doing is shrinking my Chrome browser, because that's what they used to do on the tutorials.
Okay.
So if it looked good in there. Like if you literally just grab one side of that Chrome browser and then pull it in, it'll work. It'll be fine.
So have you seen this button before?
Yeah, but
Super cool.
I
Super
again
useful.
sort of neglected to
Right.
use that. And if I'm honest, I had a quick look at it the other day and thought, oh shit, that doesn't look right, and just sort of
Right.
brushed it back under the rug. But this is
That's fine,
highlighting responsive. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So
No,
again,
so
it's having more practice to use that as I'm building, because all that is just CSS. That's
essentially.
that's understanding what to use and how to structure your divs, basically.
Correct. Yeah. Scale them properly.
Noted.
And all that. Yada yada yada.
Oh, that's not good. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, no, but very useful. Keeping that buddy here in mind. Very nice too. To be able to simulate number of devices. How does it look on an iPad? No, it's not too bad actually, right? Galaxy Fold. Oof, even worse, right?
Yeah.
So it's good to maybe flip through a few of these and see how that goes. Another thing that you may want to do, seeing that we're talking about testing your website on various devices, etc., go and open Microsoft Edge.
What's this?
Or Safari on your end. Firefox. Let's see, because you want to see what majority of people will be seeing, and if you do check it out, isn't Internet Explorer and Edge still significant in browser world? I don't even remember.
The general consensus is, from what I've gathered, is less so.
Less so, yeah.
Or at least developers are less, they're getting less fussed about adhering to making it look good on those platforms.
That for years already been going on. Let's check also Firefox, because that is obviously a browser that is very popular. So I normally test it on those three. You obviously won't have Edge, but try it on Safari on your end. Firefox and Chrome. I only literally have Firefox, so I can test my websites on it, or stuff that don't work with Chrome. Yeah, so give that a shot. That's another good way too.
Cool, but noted on the mobile front.
That as well,
I've learned my lesson there. Yeah, cool. Shrinking Chrome does not equal mobile.
It's interesting though, right? Like, because you'd assume that. But also important to refresh once you do that. Just the last note: refresh the page, because it will actually load things a little bit differently. If you don't do that, some things may still stay looking just about right. But refreshing is the actual, test essentially.
Yes, good point. Yeah. No, I think I just must have picked that up from doing tutorials years ago. Like when I first started just doing basic layouts, that's what they always used to do, is just shrink the browser. Yeah, that looks good. Do a couple of media queries, change that.
Yeah. I mean,
I was designing, mobile first, but I had what I thought was mobile. So the intention was there. No, I mean, good intention, poor execution.
Walking in the right direction is still walking in the right direction. So you could have just stood in place. Let's be honest. You did take that turn and walk in the direction to make it responsive. So fair play.
Maybe I should add this to my README notes, because this is an extra learning.
Yeah. Sure. I will comment also, I like that you went around and tweaked the margins and all, because I was bitchy about it last time. I wasn't actually, when I was mentioning them to you, I wasn't looking at your face, and you just slowly got more and more frustrated about me just listing more and more things. And then you interrupted. No, I mean, like, jokingly, but yeah, it was kind of funny when I watched it later when I was editing the video, and you're like, I know, and you don't say it, you just slowly get in there and get in there and get in there. And I'm like, okay, boy, I get it. And I'm like, oh shit, sorry.
And it took me ages to fix it as well. Again, just other people's SaaS and how they set it up and everything. It took me ages just to figure out margins and what divs does he use? What are they called? And the guy who made the template, I'm pretty sure he was either Spanish or Portuguese. So half of the class names weren't even in English. So I had to either...
Yeah, that happens.
I mean, with hindsight, what I should have really done is scrap everything and build it up from scratch, rather than try and just tweak what he had and hope everything still works.
No, mate, I'm so glad you say this, because... Well, the moment you said that, I was thinking, right. So we discussed building this from scratch or using a template. right? So we used the template, and I agree with that decision. I think it was a good decision, right? But then we had to go over all the CSS, scrap most of it, and then build from scratch in the end, while using maybe some of these items that you might have had there before, like the colors or whatnot. I don't know what you kept. In a way, what I'm trying to say, do you think it would have been easier and faster if you just went straight from the beginning?
If I look at the time that I spent, probably yes. But I think what I did here is it's almost like I bought a house that was fully furnished, and it took me a while to get rid of the furnishings, but I still wanted to keep the walls. Like the structure was good.
Okay. The HTML and everything. Okay.
So that's the way I see it, because
no, fair point.
They but also a very valid point your end, because I wouldn't say I overrided you, but I opted to go the template. I almost fell into the template route because I was having a fiddle anyway, and just thought, well, let me just change a few things. And I thought, well, I've gone this far, I might as well just finish it. But no, also very valid point that, building it from scratch would have meant I had more control. I also felt I was scared to go in on a lot of this stuff because it wasn't my own. It was like, well, shit, what if I change something or delete that and then it starts looking wrong? It's going to take me ages to figure out what's gone wrong.
Correct.
So there was a part of me that was very hesitant to actually start working on some of it. Yeah. Whereas if it's my own thing, I know exactly where everything is. Correct. I know what all the divs are called, and I know what, because, now I'm using Sass, a lot of it's nested, which, if someone else has written it, well, what's that pointing to? Which bit's that? What? Because they write the class names, but then you've got to go and find it in, on the React pages, JS pages. Yeah. So yeah, also noted that it sometimes it is quicker to build from scratch because you've got more control. Yeah, you've got more control basically.
Yeah, I mean, all in all, doing it this way also gave you good practice of rewriting somebody else's code, which is very valuable lesson. So quite frankly, it definitely wasn't a good choice or a bad choice. I was just trying to kind of go back to that discussion we had, seeing that quite a lot of work had to be redone.
Yeah. Awesome.
Cool. No, okay. Well, frankly, well done. I think that's a good summary of the portfolio page. We'll probably be reviewing it, with time as we, move over to, next stages of the project job search. Whilst in the meantime, I think we can, leave it where it is. Well done, honestly. Good tweaks. It looks very nice and sleek. So cool. Yeah. Super minimalistic.
Thanks for your input. Yeah.
Yeah. So what other thing did we speak about? Terminal.
Yes.
Did you get a chance to look at the terminal?
I did indeed, mate. I did it this morning. Spent about 2.5 hours. Yeah, just learning, not even learning, but just having a play and getting used to basic terminal commands, such as navigating, editing, moving, deleting, creating.
Sure.
So just spent a couple of hours on it today. So what I did notice is that I haven't ever really used the terminal for my Git commands. I've only ever used Git graph, which I'm quite good at now, but I've realized I do actually prefer a GUI when it comes to Git, because I prefer just seeing it visually, and there's always a part of me that's scared of deleting something or moving something in the wrong place. And I almost did it today. Like I was playing with RM on terminal, and if I'd have just put RM and accidentally gone to like one of my main directories, I could have wiped my whole computer. And it dawned on me after, I was like, holy shit, I was a couple of keystrokes away from doing that. I genuinely was.
Oh, this is good, mate. Oh, this is I love how much revelation this is to you.
Yeah, and I was like, well, I'll just get it from the trash can. No, you won't, mate. It's taking it off the whole computer. And so I again, and that just demonstrates why I prefer using GUIs more, because I can see what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was good practice just using terminal, so I can at least navigate and I think we mentioned, I don't even know if we recorded it last time, how I always thought CD was create directory. And actually it was
wasn't
change directory.
Yeah. Well, good you didn't think RM wasn't, read me.
Yeah.
I want to read everything. RM asterisk. Yeah.
Brilliant. So that was good fun today. It was good practice actually, because I downloaded a music album onto my desktop, and I was about to just sort of move it around. I thought, let me see if I can do this in Terminal.
Good.
So I found the file, found the folder, deleted the text document that's always in there and stuff, and opened a couple of the tunes. I don't like that tune, let me delete that. So I was doing all this from the Terminal.
Decent.
So yeah, it was pretty cool practice. I'm not sure how much, or if ever, I'm sure at some point I'm going to need that knowledge, but it's still worth knowing. And it just reminded me how much I had actually used it just from using VS Code and NPM, and the amount of times that I've used it there. So I actually knew a lot of the key commands, but I'd learnt them in another context. I was like, I've done all this stuff before.
Oh, definitely, yeah. But then also that goes vice versa. It shows you how often you will be using it, right? You already notice how often you have been using it. You just do as a programmer.
Yeah, good point.
Depending on what you end up doing, but a ton. It can be a ton. Frankly, if you do get fluent with it, it's faster. It can be faster than using Explorer on Windows or Finder on Mac or whatever else you use on Mac, right? To navigate. If you get confident with understanding your folder structures and typing it all, fluently, it is blazing fast. So it takes a while to get used to, I suppose. When I used Unix a while back, I got really good with Terminal back then. Kind of forgot about it since then because that was a good while ago. But back then, I'd only ever use CD to navigate around and access my directories. Got so good at it. It's a good skill. Don't shy away from it.
Yeah, I think that's what myself and a lot of people do. Is they are a bit scared of it because it just doesn't even look that nice. It just looks a bit like, what do you want? You don't know what you're doing here. Come on. But definitely feel more comfortable in there. So worthwhile. I'd say I've ticked it off the list, but I've gone in and had a play.
That was the idea, though. That was exactly the idea, that you just give it a shot. You're not completely unfamiliar with it. You know how to navigate around, move files. If somebody tells you, well, paste that into your command line interface, you know what to do. Done, right?
Yeah. Exactly, yeah.
Talking about, briefly talking about removal, there is a way to prevent yourself from accidentally removing the entire drive using RM by creating aliases on your computer.
Okay.
So on Windows, it looks a little bit differently, but on Mac and on Linux, you can create this one file that will kind of create aliases for certain command line commands, right? So for certain terminal commands, which means that if you type one thing, it will actually do another thing. And it can be very convenient if you, for instance, have a very long command that you very frequently use. Instead of typing it, on and on, you create an alias, and then it's just one word or two words or whatever, right? And you just type that, and it executes the entire command for you. It's essentially just, aliases, one command for another, right? So interesting kind of protection and security trick they can do is to actually alias the RM command so that it never would do complete removal. Like if you ever tell it to do complete removal, it will do the safe removal instead, asking you for confirmation essentially.
Yeah.
Something, if you do ever end up playing with Terminal, much more maybe worth considering. Like I don't use Terminal on my PC at the moment, but I have a very similar, literally the same thing happening in my Explorer. So when I want to delete stuff, even when I press the combination of keys to permanently delete stuff, it will always move it to my recycling bin. So that I can't, screw it up myself. Because I did. It happened to me a number of times. And then I was like, man, I can't be even, responsible for myself. So let's put that extra security layer on top of that. Another really cool thing I'm using, by the way, maybe it never happened to you, but have you ever noticed how you accidentally drag and drop a folder to another folder and you can never find it until like a week later because you found it? I don't know if that happens a lot on Mac, But it happened enough on Windows that in one company I used to work in, we installed like that thing on everybody's machines that it would warn you when you want to drag and drop stuff. It will give you a confirmation dialog, and God, it saves so much time because it just accidentally happens. You just think you're clicking, you're actually dragging, and suddenly things are missing and gone, and like paths are off, and when you work with big projects, it's a massive problem in a company. So yeah, putting in these little protection mechanisms that, will guard you from yourself is a super good idea. When, you become more and more powerful with your computer, when it's no longer, click here, send an email, but you can actually remove the entire drive. By the way, it probably will not let you remove the entire drive. The RM, asterisk, it probably wouldn't let you do all of it, but yeah, it probably screw up a lot of things. So definitely a good idea to put some security measures there.
Yes, yeah, because I'm being the minimalist I am, I literally have just one folder on my desktop, but then everything's inside that folder.
Imagine
so when I was
that,
navigating, I almost deleted that folder.
Fuck. Can I tell you a story? Actually, it happened to me once. I was in the uni, and when you when you make computer animation and visual effects, sometimes when you have like a very heavy simulation, it takes a very long time to calculate. You calculate it once and then you cache it. So then you can later kind of load that cache back in, and it's already pre-calculated. You just have frame by frame, where those geometries have to go. So I was doing this massive project. Actually, my final major project, I think that was. So like my finishing the uni. And moving things around between hard drives and all that. I just erased maybe half of my caches, which took me something like 2 months to simulate, and just gone. And the moment I pressed it, just the whole world stopped. You know how in films sometimes you just have those effects? That's what happened to me. And I felt like crying and laughing at the same time. And I just ended up just covering my face with my hands and kind of laughing at myself. And just, went straight into it and started re-simulating. And within 2 days of just constant simulation, I just used 5 different machines to redo everything. I managed to get it back. But just the feeling of, you screwed up big time, but really big time. I don't recommend that to anyone. Speaking of which, do you have an online backup?
Not of my machine, no. I mean, I've got various USB flashes which I update manually every couple of months, but
right.
Tell me more.
No incentive behind this, but I'm using Backblaze. I've been on them for a couple of years now. You pay $60, I think, a year, and it backs up your hard drive, your entire computer. It can also back up your external hard drives. So I have 2 external hard drives with films and private files. All of that is backed up as well, unlimited. I've got a few terabytes by now. It takes a while. It is slow, very slow. The initial backup takes probably about a month and a bit, leaving it overnight to do it. But there's just so much data, right? It has to go up there at some point. It's kind of understandable. But just the peace of mind, mate. The peace of mind, it's just priceless. Because I'm like you. I've got USB sticks, hard drives. That everything's backed up twice. But since I've got that extra layer there, I feel twice as good. And it did. I already used it. It already has happened. I deleted my files, and that was my only place I had it, and I picked it up. So just made its money back already. Really recommend it, frankly.
Yeah, I will check it out. Yeah, because something happened on one of my USB drives where the file, I think it's corrupt. So it's like my file where I've got all of my music mixes, gigs worth of collections.
That happens.
Suddenly it's a non-clickable folder. It's like, where's everything gone?
Do you know that if you store data on one of these external hard drives, they get corrupted within 6 years or 5-6 years is when you should remove everything from it and put it reformat the drive and put it all back on into it, which means that obviously within those 6 years some damage is happening. It's not 6 years now. It's just within that time more and more data gets corrupted, by which you should actually do something about it. So it's a good idea to probably do it, I'd say every couple of years or so. I don't know. Yeah, just move everything out where you can. I actually have 2 hard drives and I just flip between them. So, one of them is empty and then I put everything on the other one, erase that,
repropagate so just reformatting
definitely
negates the need for a new one. It just needs to be cleaned and refreshed.
Well, I mean, unless there is something, some permanent damage happening there. But it's as far as I remember, I could be wrong, but it's just as simple as, just magnetism just going wrong somewhere there. You carrying it with you, it being exposed to the magnetic fields of the world of different sort. Apparently, it fucks up the data. That's just you just have to do that.
Okay, no, good to know. Yeah. I think I'm due a refresh then.
Yeah. I'm going to carry on with the interesting facts of 29th of July 2020. Do you know actually was one of the more efficient data storage formats? Apparently so. CD-ROMs. And I heard, the old school stuff. Yeah, I heard. I mean, obviously there is like a modern version of it. Probably DVD is what's used these days. I read that Facebook utilizes it to store quite a significant portion of its old posts. And they have like this very high speed system that picks those CD-ROMs from their massive storage and puts them on like this super high flash, laser reader and reads the data from there.
Old school.
You'd never think, right? Facebook being stored on CD-ROMs? Well, here we go. I mean, it could be a lie, but I remember reading about it quite a bit a while ago, and somebody mentioned Facebook using that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just brought memories of my music production days where I would save all my sample banks onto hard drives,
right?
CD-ROMs, and then I would stash them. In fact, what I would do when I lived in Bristol, I would always have a backup sample bank in my mum's garage.
Nice.
Because if my house burnt down in Bristol, I knew I'd have all my samples, which is basically all the stuff I'd collected over the years. Which
is valuable.
I suppose it is replaceable, but it would take you a lifetime.
I did enough music production myself, very amateur, but enough to know exactly the pain you're describing right now. So I'm with you on that. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But these are all good lessons to learn. So we've both had scares, which you would think would remind us not to do that again.
Especially when you're learning terminal and the readme command. Yeah.
So I'm not going to use terminal ever again.
Lesson learned. Thank you, boy.
Wicked.
Now that we've done terminal and your portfolio is done, I'm kind of out of ideas on what else we could be looking at. Do you want to go back to your SAM job prep document and review how that is going and see what else
we've got on your screen or mine?
Guess we could still do mine. Okay, I am.
So if you scroll down to your
Yep.
I suppose we did a refactored Word version which just looks a bit tidier.
Oh, there is one, isn't there? Yeah, true. Right.
So you recommended for me to have a couple of people look at it, and I had my friend Wissam have a look at it, and he is a senior engineering manager at GitHub.
Oh wow!
So he had a look at this list. The general consensus was testing and tests seem to be something that he recommended looking at.
Right.
I mean, in his notes there on the comments, it's something that hiring managers look for. Which makes sense because I guess it's a big part of working with code nowadays. That's not to say that the other stuff on our list isn't important, but the question that I gave him was the stuff on the list, is it worth me learning this first before I look into starting to apply, or should I just apply now and learn these little bits as we go? And he just basically said,
okay, well that's his comments right here, isn't there? Right.
Yeah, I'm just trying.
Which one of these should I focus on? So actually, just look through it quickly. We've done gulp. Do you mind if I just do this to quickly?
Yeah. I've actually done that on the version above, but this one's probably more visible. Right. So I've just sort of strike through on a lot of the stuff. So we've done portfolio site done.
Terminal done.
Debugger,
did you get a chance to use a bit more?
Not really.
Right.
I mean, I've had a little play, but I haven't built anything that needed debugging because the portfolio site didn't really have any logic in it. It was just designed.
Just something to keep in mind more than anything, yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
You did manage to fix your Git branches, didn't you, right?
Yeah, but I've never done a rollback.
Right. Okay.
So that's still on my list.
You still have another pull request. That was on me. I said we would do it and I forgot about it. So sorry.
No, well, again, we haven't needed to.
Yeah. I mean,
I haven't had this stuff.
No, but frankly, with pull requests, we'd have to generate a need because, on a single person project, you'd never do your own pull request, I suppose.
I did it once.
Oh, you did?
Just to see what it did. Yeah, I have done a pull request, but I've not had another person look at it or had a look at merge conflicts and things like that.
Ooh, merge conflicts. I suppose.
But I think
I'll write it down just so it's written down.
Yeah.
it's something that, they would probably put on the list of, once you get a job, they can probably show you how to do it. But it's probably one of the more difficult things that you'd have to pick up.
I gave
on your
myself
own.
a merge conflict.
Oh, did you?
A while back, and I was like, oh shit, what have I done
by
here?
accident. Okay.
Yeah, just because I'd made
right.
different branches and detached the head and done all sorts of stuff. So
well done. You're making it harder for yourself.
Accident. Yeah, exactly. But I guess learning from it.
Good. Good.
So yeah.
Okay.
So
well,
gulp. We've pretty much
done. Yeah.
React builds are slightly different. Webpack, I wouldn't mind having a look at some point. So that just basically uses it's a bundler as opposed to just a task runner.
Right.
So I'd like to be more comfortable in React to know what the React builds do. But I think because I now understand what builds are, I've pretty much got over that hump. Whereas, a couple of months ago, I was using npm run build on a project. Everything would move and I'd be like,
why?
What the hell have I just done?
Yeah.
Not knowing what I'd done.
Why
doesn't live server work anymore? Not knowing that it's now moved everything to a different folder and you've got to spin up a different server.
Right.
So technically, I think that whole section should just be under builds.
Yeah.
But
true. All right, cool. So interview skills, we kind of have that on the radar still. Docker.
Yeah.
So we see what your friend actually says about it, because that's one thing I wasn't quite entirely sure about. Low level hardware knowledge. Yeah, that's something I mentioned just, to maybe do if you've got a free afternoon just to read up a bit more about it. Again, not essential. Yeah. Right. Right. So Wissam, that's his name?
Yes.
Wissam, let's see what he addressed here. So which one of these should I focus on? I'm not sure it is important to focus on terminal, gulp, Docker, and low-level hardware knowledge before starting to apply. These are all things you can continue fiddling with as you interview or even on your first job. For instance, lots of companies aren't using Docker yet. Okay, well, fair enough. So that's one thing I wasn't quite sure about. So I'm happy to take that off from the list if that's the case. So hands-on experience is not as important to them, but understanding what is and what it could solve is important. Oh, okay.
So yeah, I mean, I'm happy to at least go and have a look at it.
So we could simply, keep
it
on the list, but we rephrase it as, read up about what it is and what does it solve.
Yeah, because I do see it around a lot.
It's super
Kubernetes.
helpful. But, Kubernetes,
I have no idea what either of those do at the moment. So
start with Docker, then move to Kubernetes. By the way, so that's definitely you want to move that direction. Okay. But I would probably even say if you just do Docker, then that's enough. Yeah, that's enough because Kubernetes just does make Docker a little bit more powerful if you can oversimplify things this way. Right, and Wissam says, what else is missing? I haven't seen the portfolio side. I don't have the access. So this may or may not be on your radar yet. I would add testing on the list. Okay. I think it is important to have some knowledge in testing concepts around unit tests, end-to-end tests, and integration tests. You don't have to be an expert, but this is something that companies tend to look for. All right, that's pretty good, actually, because that's something, remember, I've been sort of thinking about quite a lot as we were talking in our discussions, but I wasn't quite sure I would put it on. So it is interesting to get somebody else, recommend us digging into it. Because I frankly, personally believe they're extremely important. And I can tell you, just from a perspective of somebody who's building an app, a library right now that I'm thinking of publishing into open source, the confidence I have from seeing that I have just about 100% of my code tested to some degree. It's not all perfect, obviously, but having it tested gives me so much more confidence and peace of mind that I'm not delivering shit code. And whenever I make a tweak and I can run all the tests and they find that there's some, missing case that I forgot, it's so useful. It's so damn useful. And God, yeah. I mean, okay. Frankly, I think we should just, add it in and do a quick,
cool. If it's easier, mate, if you scroll up, I've done that already on the other version. So
have you?
Scroll.
Test? Oh, you did put something in. Oh my God. Right. You do not have to be an expert, but look into unit tests, end-to-end tests, and integration tests. Add to resume. you taught me that word last time because I said resume, resume. Link skill 2.
Yeah, on LinkedIn you can add skills to your page.
Yeah,
so
tests.
there is one for tests and test-driven development. So I mean, I might not be at that stage yet, but if I do a bit more, I can at least add it on there, and it just looks like, oh, this kid actually has looked at the concept of tests.
So I would even recommend, we maybe create a simple scenario for you to create tests for. I don't think I would go as far as making you learn about test-driven development yet. Maybe reading up about it just so you know what it is. I mean, frankly, the principle is very simple. Imagine you writing your code, it's working. You tried it out, it works. Then you go and you build tests for it to test out all the different scenarios and make sure that it works in all the possible ways that you can think about, and it breaks in the correct way as well if it breaks. So test-driven development is just switching these two around. You first do the tests and you write everything that's going to break and all the possible clauses that you can think of, and then you write the code that's going to start succeeding those tests. Because at first they'll all fail, and then one by one you write more. As you write more code, those tests stop failing; they start succeeding. And once you've got 100% of your tests complete, you're essentially finished writing your app. That's the principle here. So it's about swapping that the process around. Quite likely there's more to it than what I'm saying right now. But maybe just reading about it would be enough. I don't think we have to go as far as you building a separate app with TDD in mind, I think.
No, that's cool.
But maybe doing like a short exercise on tests. So we could maybe prep some JavaScript code for you. And and you just have to write tests for it and try to cover as many tests as you can think about. So obviously that would require you first reading up about a bit. So spending some time on tutorials, explaining what tests are, what are these 3 types of tests. I should mention that there is a number of ways of calling different types of tests. So unit test is something you're going to see quite a lot. End test, integration tests, also application tests is another word I heard. They kind of get used a little bit more, how should I say it? Maybe erroneously, not always in the same context, not always meaning the same thing. So just keeping that in mind. That terminology here isn't as strict as when you do a gulp build, you're doing a gulp build. In here, things may go a little bit more fiddly. Definitely, if you find some Stack Overflow pages or I don't know Wikipedia, they should be able to explain quite well because testing is a very wide subject currently covered. So so to get to up to speed on tests, so, for you to read up about it and then go through an exercise like that, I think it would be a good idea. I'm kind of glad your friend mentioned it because, like I said, I was really considering putting that in. So to get some feedback on that idea was a great input. So thank you, Wissam, if you're listening to this. Wissam, if you're listening to it, I appreciate it, mate.
Designing for Scale on Instagram, if anyone wants to follow him.
Designing for Scale. That's his Instagram. Nice. Yep. He did put some time in there, so let's... Oh, that's not him, is it?
No.
Right. I thought, why won't we look him up? I can't find him, can I? Designing for Scale, is that it?
Yeah, do it all one word.
Wissam, there you go. Nice. Oh, this is a nice Instagram page, isn't it?
It's a beautiful feed, but also some great knowledge in there as well.
Cool. Let's give him a follow.
Go check him out.
Right.
Thanks, Wissam.
So, back on this. Yeah, that sounds like a plan, I feel. Because we
I am down for that.
Spoke about everything else, so we also want to add, reading up about Docker. We also have this point about Git, doing a bit of that. I don't know. What do you feel? Do you want to push
I'm smirking just because I've realised when you bold stuff, it means it's done. Whereas for me, it's exactly the opposite. Bolding it means you've got to do it.
No, but you know why I do it? Because I don't have that like shortcut easily available to me to do strike through. So when you asked me to do it at one point, I had to like go through some menus. I don't remember what it was. So I told you, I'm just going to bold everything. And then do you mind going and striking it afterwards again? Do you remember that? No? All right, don't worry.
I think so, yeah. But yeah, I mean, going back to the list, I mean, there's a few minor things in there which, you know, even if I've got half an hour during the day, which I always do have, it's just whether I choose to use it to have a read up and have a practice and have a fiddle, basically. So yeah, these are all minor things which can be picked up at any point.
Do you want to go through Git, these bits that we have highlighted right now, or?
Well, I mean, when you say go through,
well, you know, roll back a branch, go through that exercise.
These are things I can probably just Google and do it, you know, in like 30 minutes. So
okay, well,
maybe not merge conflicts, but you know, figuring out how to roll back a branch. I've got a couple of old random projects I can just go and do it on.
But you said you already did merge conflicts, didn't you?
I said I had one, but I didn't solve it, so I wouldn't know by looking at, because I think what it does is it brings up the two windows side by side, and then I guess you have to choose which is the one you want to roll with. So I haven't actually gone through that process.
Could be useful.
But I'm sure it's probably, once you know what you're doing, it's pretty simple to just go through it.
Okay. So note for Voi is when when building the test app, put it up on Git and have Sam this way we are going to do our PR.
Sweet.
Yeah. So if I do send you, your exercise and I don't mention the GitHub, NPR, then remind me to do it.
Yeah, cool.
Because that would be a good idea to finally get that done.
Wicked.
Yeah. Do we want to put some merge conflict in there? Maybe we could do that, right? Yeah, I suppose we could do it. So create merge for you to solve, and it'll probably be a simple one, and merge conflicts they're difficult when they're really big. Simple ones are generally quite easy. So
but just even going through that process, knowing what to click and which windows the master.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and then this you just read up on. Okay, I think that's it, man. I think that sounds like a plan.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
Right. I don't know if there's anything else on here that we have, but we went through this, right? We reviewed it.
Yeah, I mean, the font 9 version is just the same thing. It's just a couple of few extra notes in there. But
tests bit right here, so we've got it on this pretty list as well. Also, so that Wissam can see we take his feedback seriously. We did lose the links, so I hope you don't mind.
It's okay. No, that test link it actually links to the document I've already started creating around tests and testing.
Right.
And it's also got a bit on TDD, which I looked at ages ago, just because I just kept seeing it. I was like, what even is that?
Okay.
So, don't worry about the links.
That sounds fine.
But yeah, that'll keep me busy next couple of days next couple of weeks.
Okay.
I don't know, Wednesday. I'm down for that.
Right, Sammy. So I think that's kind of it, isn't it? Like we've got a plan for next week or so. Do the tests, do a reading up on Docker, and then with the tests we're gonna do a PR and a merge conflict. So we'll get the Git section done, because I feel we're talking about Git in every single recording we do. There's something about Git going on. You got so much better at it. You get good at Git. So well done.
Hey, brilliant.
So yeah, just to sign it off, I would say. And then I suppose we can catch up next week and review how the tests went and get into the serious conversation about what will be the next step. Sam, what will be the next step?
Start looking at job applications.
Oh my God. Looking serious.
All this knowledge and seeing what's about.
Yeah. Excited?
Yeah, I am actually. Yeah, I really am.
So
Someone asked me the other day, "Are you nervous about it?" And I was like, "No, not really," because I'm excited because I just love learning, and also now I can get paid to learn.
Yeah, that'll be wicked. Yeah.
Not looking at it as money's the object, but I'm excited to jump in and for being in an environment where I can learn more.
No, I feel you, man. And let's be fucking honest. It does feel good when somebody pays you to learn. Done. It does, right? And for companies, it's a good investment. You are willing to learn. You are passionate and interested in the subject. From a perspective of an employer, you're a very valuable person to have someone like you who's fresh, wants to pick up what they're really into and learn more in their particular technology. So just a matter of time, mate. Definitely.
Yeah, cool.
Nice.
Yeah, because I think maybe what they might have been alluding to is the whole interview process. Like that can be a bit nervy for a lot of people, but it just doesn't faze me at all. Just because I've built up those kind of social skills, I guess. So I'm actually, it hadn't even come on my radar. Oh my God, I'm going to have to do an interview. What will I say? It's like, no, I thrive on those kind of environments as long as I come prepared. So that's why we've got those couple of sections on data structures and design patterns, which aren't going to be big things, but it's worthwhile knowing. And those are the kind of, I get the impression these are the kind of things that will crop up in tests and interviews is, specific language, specific knowledge. Like, what is this in JavaScript?
No, true. But, more than anything, I mean, I definitely think we should speak about this more next week. But you know what the problem is? When you go to an interview, have you ever prepared yourself for not knowing what to say? Have you ever practiced the situation in which you're speaking to another person and they ask you a question and then you don't know the answer? Have you done that? You don't. You prepare yourself for things you know. You remember, you memorize things. You do data structures, you do, language specific stuff, and you know how to recall them. But you've never been exposed to a situation, even with a friend, when you're being asked a question you have no idea about and you haven't answered it and you don't know how to deal with it. And then you're in an interview, stress kicks in, bust, right? So to practice these little things also is so key before you even get there, right? These things you'd probably never look at, or many people, I guess, wouldn't look at from that perspective. But like I say, maybe
I'd be, weirdly, I'm okay with doing that. I think I've done a lot of sort of inner personal development work.
I'm not worried about
from the coaching background. I'm quite happy to say, you know what, I don't actually know, but I'll just go and find out.
Yeah, no. Again, I'm not worried about you at all, mate.
But no, I think very good points for our listeners and our watchers around the world.
Definitely, yes, all 22 of them. Right.
So this is a document I sort of created recently because I had someone look at my CV kindly, and one of the things he asked me at the end was, "What kind of development do you want to do? What do you want to get into? What niche?"
Right.
And it stumped me, and I thought, shit, I don't even know. Like, I hadn't even thought that far ahead. I've been so busy concentrating on learning the languages, I hadn't even thought about what I want to do with all this knowledge I'm gaining. So I came up with some questions I'd like to ask myself. The guy's name was Adam, by the way. And so I've come up with some questions I'd like to ask myself, and I'm just curious to see what you'd add to this, and also where I could go to potentially look at I guess potential routes, because I don't really know what's out there. I mean, I've got a few ideas, but I'd love to have almost like a list. If there was a list of certain things that I could go through and go, oh, I like the look of this one and this one.
Right.
So if it's cool with you, I'd love for you to just just have a look through those questions. I mean, some of them are obvious, but then some of them I might have worded differently, and I wasn't sure on the terminology on some of them. But
okay, so I'd probably start by saying a couple of things. One is Google computer science map, or go on YouTube actually and search for computer science map. I think that's what it's called, or something along these lines. As in, actually go and do it now.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so if you go to videos, there's a really, yeah, that one, Map of Computer Science. That video
one, yeah.
is, super cool. And it
okay,
gives you
cool.
a very brief but pretty good overview of different paths that computer science can take you. And he actually draws into this big map that you can then buy or download. Like there's various ways you can access it. Super cool explanation, very broad and very kind of overview style. So he doesn't get into any details here. But to point in the right direction, looking at the map of computer science, definitely first step.
Wicked.
Yeah. Now, second thing is that there is no easy way to answer the question, what kind of dev do I want to get into? It's a very fucking hard question, mate, honestly. And like the choices are endless on one hand. On the other hand, we can look at things that will already simplify this question for us. Some limitations that will make this simpler for us. So first of all, you're only looking for technologies using JavaScript, naturally. And not only JavaScript, we're looking at front-end web development at this stage, right? Because sure, a question of, what kind of dev do you want to get into in the end is a very different question from, well, what kind of jobs do we want to be looking at this stage right now? Right?
Yeah.
You may want to get into, machine learning and neural networks. You possibly could do some of it with JavaScript these days, but essentially you'd probably have to start from scratch, learn Python. Maybe not start from scratch, but you'd have to redo a lot of learning, learn Python, learn a lot of data science and mathematics, and spend a whole nother months and months of learning. So we already know that we are looking at a subset of computer science, which is front-end web development using JavaScript, and there we can start answering these questions essentially. So there is a different answer for this question, now or in a few years' time.
Yeah, good point.
I would also, I think, look at it from a perspective of, I think for now it doesn't matter that much because, well, you're humble enough to know this. I'm not saying that you didn't say that, but you probably just want to land somewhere to just learn the ropes essentially. So that also helps us answer this question. If you get any job that will teach you stuff. If anything, it will teach you how to collaborate in a team of programmers, even if the technology is old, even if maybe the processes aren't good. You will work with other people. You'll get some experience. That's what probably you'd be looking at, right? And to get money for that. Now we could probably try to make this answer more granular to sort of try to find a perfect job you could be looking at, right? So that the closer you get to that to that position that you could find right now, then the better. But at the same time, I kind of feel and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm assuming that if you'd get a job from something that isn't something you dreamed up in your review and by answering these questions, if you just get something completely different, but still it's a front end web development job and it pays you well and seems to be a good setup for you, you'd probably take it, right?
Yeah.
Right. So that's kind of that simplifies it to me, at least this question, right? These problems. But at the same time, this isn't by any means me trying to say these aren't good questions to be looking at, and I'm more than happy to look at them right now. I just wanted to give that preface to kind of put it in perspective as well, right?
Yeah, no, brilliant. I mean, just even your first point makes sense. It's like, am I asking this question to myself as in now, like, what am I going to be looking for in the next couple of weeks?
Exactly.
But in my head, I'd actually thought about it in 1 or 5 years, because when I was doing coaching, like one of the questions I would do was almost transport people into the future and say, right, it's the 29th of July, 2021. Where are you? What are you doing? What are you creating? So I kind of, you've made a very good distinction, is there's two ways to answer this question.
Cool. Yeah.
The first one's going to be more relevant, but I'm actually more intrigued by the second one. Just so I've got a landscape to just have a dream and just not have a dream, but have
that's a good way to put it. Beautiful, man. Yeah. Definitely.
Which then will affect, in some ways, actually affect what do I want to do in the next couple of weeks. Because if I can go if I can go a year or 5 years in the future, that gives me the compass direction for what I want to do this week. So in fact, let's just hypothetically say this is for
In 5
2
years'
years'
time.
time.
Yeah, sure. No,
5 years' time,
that's
whatever,
perfect.
yeah.
That's perfect, mate.
So then that'll give me at least some ideas, because at the moment, I guess my compass is our job. That's how specific I am.
Right.
Obviously, something that's JavaScript related, but in the future, what could I potentially be doing? Because
Sure.
there's things like, well, I could be doing blockchain. I could be, using blockchain in the finance industry, which would be something completely different than using blockchain in the medical industry. So it's understanding. It's even the terminology about like domains and industry. And I think ideally what I'd love to have is like almost like a Venn diagram of select your industry, select your tech stack, and then eventually it all overlaps and you've got, okay, well, ideally in 5 years' time, I'd like to be doing this as part of this, working with this.
That's
so
brilliant.
That in my head, but I don't quite know the questions to ask. So
okay, sure. No, so
kind of
it's good you explain that, because that explains why your questions look like they look, and it does make sense a lot. So it's good to read them with that thing in mind.
Yes. Yeah.
Can I add something else before we get into them yet again, though?
Yeah, sure.
That just came to my mind. One is that it's probably brilliant to make these predictions, but the accuracy of them can be questionable. It's almost like, when you ask a child, oh, what do you want to be when you're old? And they're like, I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a firefighter, and they won't.
Yeah.
Right? That person will be a doctor. That person may be a lawyer. That person may be, I don't know, a cleaner, right? The children rarely get it right into what they really want to be doing, right? So by no means I try to offend you here, but you get the analogy, right? At this stage, it may be completely sort of almost futile to try to make this very concrete, simply because as you learn, things will become so much more clear to you, or just by random luck, you'll land a job and you'll fall in love with it so much that you'll dig deeper and deeper into that technology, into that field, right? So there's just so many random factors there that I would say that it's hard to estimate what the accuracy of such prediction would be. By which kind of, I'm assuming that, that it may be a little bit futile to do it at this stage. Yeah. Which isn't to say, again, that it's wrong. That's wrong, because I think it's great. It's a great thing that you're doing this.
Yeah, no, I mean, you've got a valid point, because I think what the idea of doing this kind of work, at least when I was doing it on the coaching, is it's deliberately, I mean, it's accurate when you talk about it, but it just gives you the direction, not a specific destination. So it's like, well, if I know that I'm really interested in, augmented reality, then that gives me a direction to work in. So there's no point in me learning a language which has nothing to do with AR. If I know I want to get into AR eventually, hypothetically, then there are certain things which makes more sense to go in that direction of, and I'm fully aware that it will evolve and it will change, but it's almost like I don't even know the landscape. I don't even know what's out there at the moment, other than the things I've heard about. And I've made just like a list of 3, but I'm sure. No,
but I get you. I get you.
Yeah.
I totally
get
you.
But you do make a valid point. Yeah, it does. It's not like, here's what I want to be doing in 5 years, and if I'm not there, I'm going to be disappointed with my life.
Yeah, I know you're not like that, so that's good. Yeah. No, sure.
It's a direction, and then again, these are all hypothetical for now. But if I have a rough idea of what direction I want to be heading, then that helps me make decisions on what kind of technologies I want to learn and what kind of jobs I'd like to apply for, and then also that reverts back to what technologies will I need to learn.
Can I just say, this, what you're doing right now, this should be taught in the university for everybody who's leaving uni and is about to dig into the real life, because it's so helpful to have a direction, isn't it? Like, how many people just go graduate and they go like, well, what do I do with my life? Anyway.
No, you're right, exactly. I mean, it's what I've done in my life in general. Is I do this quite regularly, as I transport myself into the future and think, where do I want to be? What am I doing? Who am I mingling with? What kind of things am I doing? What am I creating? So it's almost like I'm taking that exact concept but focusing it purely on the coding. So it's a bit more granular, like you say.
No, that's beautiful, mate. All right, cool. I just wanted to add these few things before actually going through these questions, but it's good.
You wouldn't have known that context. That was all in my head.
True. So, true.
Good point.
If I could design my perfect position, what technologies will I be using in that perfect position? So that's your first question that you're asking yourself, right?
So that was the prompt that Adam said was, if I could design my perfect position, that's sort of like the prompt question. And then these 1 to 7 are the questions that I came up with that would potentially help me come up with some sort of answer.
Yeah, what industry will I be working in? The market as opposed to tech. Yeah, okay. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Cloud in finance versus cloud in sports data. Okay. Yeah, that's a good point. Same technology, different industry. Fair play. What stack languages am I using? By the way, Sam, in English, I is capital when you're describing yourself.
Yeah, Grammarly's pointed that out.
Yeah. No, I pointed that out.
Yeah, good. Cheers, Grammar Boy.
What stack languages am I using in that position? Okay.
So that almost like...
That's quite specific, but sure. Because the other two were...
Yeah, that's more of a where are you currently?
Yeah, okay. Where will I be based geographically? Nice.
Yeah,
or, am I going to be based somewhere? Can I be doing this remotely, right?
Yeah, that comes on to question 6.
Sure. What type of work would I be doing? So that is broad as well, right? But a good question as well. What type of environment would I be working in? A large company, corporation, medium, small size, startup, freelance, or remote? What others are available?
So I think, basically what Adam's idea was, if I have an answer to this question, it just puts me in a more powerful position because I'll know what kind of jobs to apply for. But also when it comes to, I guess, the salary negotiations, I'll have an idea. So if I had like a hypothetical answer saying, in a year's time, I want to be, let's just say, working for having my own startup, working with blockchain, using these languages, living here, earning that amount, that's more data that I've got than I have at the moment, because I have no idea other than I've got an idea where I want to be based geographically, and I've got a few ideas on what kind of stuff I find interesting when I read and watch it online. But I'm just curious for myself just to have an idea of these answers to, for me.
Yeah, okay. I see what you're saying. So, yeah, obviously the last question, what salary would I be earning? Equally important. Yeah, no.
These are all in just random order. These are just...
Yeah, sure. So one thing that stands out to me, I think the most, is that some of these questions have a much bigger impact than the others, right? So at least from my perspective, the way I would be looking at what I want to be doing in 5 years' time has nothing to do with how much money I'll be paid for it. What stack or languages am I going to be using? Essentially, probably what technologies will I be using as well. I'd probably see that as something that I could neglect. But what would really be key to me is what industry is it in, and what type of work will it be? Like, what will be what is it I'm going to be producing? I'd almost even say what type of environment will I be working in is something I wouldn't really care about that much, because the way I'd be answering that question myself, and not to say that this is the right way to look at it, it's more sort of I guess this will be stupid, but if I were to attend my own funeral, what would I want people to say about me, right?
Yeah.
And now I'm thinking, hey, I would really want to make some big improvement, big participation in AI industry.
Yeah.
That's something I feel really passionate about, right? So whether I do it in particular technology, you could argue that that's a technology, sure, but whether it's applied in cloud, AI applied in cloud, or AI applied in games or in sports or in finance, that doesn't really seem so important to me as much as
makes sense.
Well, I want that to push the boundaries of of what's doable with AI maybe forward, if I could generalize it that way, or participate in some significant way. Then yet again, what stack language I'm going to be using, again, it doesn't really matter that much to me, because I know I can learn these. Or maybe something that isn't so clear and obvious from your perspective yet is that switching languages and switching stacks is actually a very easy thing to do in long term. You can probably, once you're familiar with 2 or 3, you can quite easily re-specialize yourself to a different language within a matter of a few months to be proficient enough to start working in that particular language professionally. So again, it would be completely irrelevant for me what languages would that be. Where will I be based geographically? Yeah, sure, that's more of a personal thing. So like, again, I want to be maybe located in warm climates, right? So that's something that could be relevant to me. But then when I refer back to it, will anyone say, oh, Voy, participated in development of AI and he lived in a nice warm place? They probably won't, right? So that again answers the question for me. It will not really be that relevant where I did it, right? So to me, it's more important that I do it, whether it's going to be in New York or in Tokyo or in Bangkok. It's more of a secondary state question for me, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And again, what type of environment will I be working in? That again, seems to be a personal preference, but in the long term, doesn't seem so relevant. I guess here, if we step back a little bit, if we step back a tiny bit and we think about, okay, not in terms of, big life goals, but essentially, what would be my perfect scenario, then I will have answers for this. Yeah, I probably avoid working for enormous companies, and I'll probably avoid working for, the very, very small ones as well. I'd probably avoid doing freelance as well. So I may have some preferences in that field, right? I think one other thing that's available on that list would be contracting. I can't speak. Contracting. Yeah. So you just advise other people, right? For money. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah. You could be employed, you could be doing freelancing contracts, or you could be doing it on your own.
It's self-employed.
That's right.
I guess some of these come under subheadings, don't they? Yeah, freelance and contract. Yeah, I can do all this after, but I'm just this is brilliant because like these are things that I hadn't thought of.
Sure.
So then that can all just come under employed. So this is the kind of thing I'm getting at. So this is where we're looking at job structure, and I want to do this kind of thing with the other questions as well.
No, sure, yeah.
But that's kind of So that's the gist. So
okay.
So we've gone from not knowing to knowing that I want to be, self-employed, doing freelance work, predominantly remotely. That's one option compared to I want to work for a big corporation where I'm employed.
Which also you should consider. Big corporations aren't all bad. You can learn a lot with them, and they can pay really well. Medium size as well. So don't discard it just because it sounds like like you're Neo from Matrix, at the beginning, and he's working for this big tech company. It's not that. They can be really fun and very useful, and you can meet lots of lovely people there. So I would consider all of them. In general, I wouldn't discard them, just because of a name, I think.
No, I haven't discarded any of
them.
I just,
cool. They're just on the list. Fair enough, yeah. Yeah,
they're just on the list, because this is it. I want to know what the options are so that I can choose from them. Because, even then you popped up with contract, which I'd either forgotten about. So,
sure.
And
lastly, what salary will I be earning when I think about, I want to, make some significant improvement to AI? It doesn't matter how much salary am I going to be earning now, does it? Yeah. So
so it's probably less of a question for the future, more for now, just so it gives you an idea of, if you're applying for a job that's 10 grand less than what you're looking for, then you're probably.
Well, yeah, but that's more of a short-term question I would ask myself. Yeah. Like, how broke am I? If I'm broke enough that I need a good salary right now, then that will be an important question. If I have, several thousand, pounds, dollars, whatever, backed up in my bank, and I can spend a year just doing what I'm passionate about, I don't need any salary. So it can be various, and doesn't really get you any closer to understanding what your perfect position is, because it depends on your current situation, right? The salary itself. Right?
Exactly. Yeah, I think I'm starting to see a split here in the weight of these questions.
So that's kind of what I mean. And you sort of are sorting them the way I be seeing that weight sort of going from most important to least important. Whilst at
And
the
that
same
weight
time,
will change depending on whether you're talking about next couple of weeks or 5 years' time.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, quite large. And yeah, it would even flip upside down in some cases, yeah. Absolutely. No, you did follow that up with those questions to help, and this is something that I would probably say as well. So should we read through these?
Yeah, if you want,
Yeah. Do you want to scroll down just a tiny bit so we can see what else you've got in there?
Yeah, so questions to help.
Right.
Who or what technology or applications do I use? Because I've read something, if there's an app that you love using, don't be afraid to go and see if they've got any jobs going, because you're obviously a user of their service.
Yeah.
So it'd be cool if you cool to get a job working with a product you enjoy. Essentially, is what they're getting at. So I've had a look at a few of mine.
Who is doing cool stuff I want to get involved with? Yeah, if that's directly looking at people and companies, right?
A bit of both, yeah.
Yeah.
If I see something online, because something I have done for ages as well is log my emotion. So if something triggers a physical emotion in me, I'll make a note of it, and sometimes I'll look at something online and I'll shout out loud, or not shout, but I'll verbally go, "That's cool."
Right.
And then it's like, whoa, it's like, where did that come from? If that comes out of me, then that's a sign to me that that's an area I want to get into. So I've had that a couple of times.
That's wonderful. Yeah, no, that's perfect.
So, and that could be a person, it could be a company, it could be a technology, it could be anything really. So
you've got a brilliant list of clues then, I bet. Just from there.
Yeah, that's a good point actually. Yeah, I've got my, I'll make a note of this. Because I've been doing this list since about 2013.
God, wow.
Of just studying what kind of things make me smile, they make me cry. Anytime there's an emotional trigger,
right?
So I'll go and check my emotion logs and see if there's any clues in there.
Well, I bet.
Sure
yeah.
there will be.
And even not, already from now on, pay attention to these, and if you think that something's more cool than
because I guess
other things.
a lot of them wouldn't have been technology related, whereas now if I go and start looking at some, even if it's like a general website on tech, there'll be certain sections that I'll look at and think, that's fucking cool. I want to do that.
Right. See, one problem maybe with some of these things is that you will not know how cool they really are until you do a bit of them. I feel that AI, for instance, never grabbed my attention until I did it. And then I was like, wow, I'm completely mind blown by the fact that I can do all these things. Well, I can do it. I can build these, these systems. And then I got to understand the community that was in there that made a big difference to me. Yeah, so maybe I would add that to one of your sort of points if it fits anywhere.
Brilliant,
is what's the community in that field? If you get into finance, into trading, it's generally very, very closed. Very few people will share what they're doing, and everybody's kind of on their own. I'm oversimplifying here, but there is a bit of that. Hard to find, someone who'll say, "Hey, I'm going to help you build, a bot that's going to make you $1 million." No one will ever say that, right? So you have to dig these things out on your own. And then if you go build, Android apps, everybody's helping each other, right? There are libraries that are being published, that you can reuse, and there are forums you can go to and ask a lot of questions, and a lot of positivity going to be going on, I suppose, in places like that. So understanding what community is in that particular field.
Brilliant.
Yeah. I'm trying to think more examples of some communities that may look one way or another. The games industry, right? Like that definitely has a very particular community, and the interaction with the users is quite particular too, right? So just thinking about that, I suppose. Yeah. Brilliant. So next question on your list: what kind of companies would I love to work for? I wouldn't have no idea how to answer that, because I don't fall in love with companies really. So
although I guess it's a de facto from the products. Like if there's products that you use, like for example, I spend a lot of my life on Google Calendar and Google Drive, essentially, as we are on at the moment. So for me, I'd be quite interested to work with technology I already use, because I've sent them, probably, a handful of feature requests saying, "Oh, can we do this and can we do that?"
They've replied.
It makes sense then if you're interested in what they're doing, why don't you go and work for them? I mean, it's not as simple as that always, but that's the general gist.
No, okay, fair play.
But then again, I guess, some companies do have an ethos which is more attractive. So even if the technologies, you might be more attracted to a company because of their values and how they operate, and you might be less enthused about what they actually do. I mean, for me, it's not that way, but I'm sort of building this list as a way of potentially supporting other people who are going on this path as well. So almost passing on your knowledge through to the next generation. These are questions which are worth, it is worth thinking about, because
definitely
there is a chance that even if you land that first job, you could just sit in that job and just stay there, unless you know where else you want to be going.
Oh yeah, definitely. No, so I'll get into that. I just want to read through your questions on how to expand the interests.
So those are questions. What brands?
What am I into? Quite broad,
so
but
that could just be even doesn't have to be technology based. What do I do in my spare time?
Definitely. Absolutely.
What energizes me?
Absolutely, yeah. Like, what kind of apps do you use? What kind of? I mean, that's technology, I suppose, again. But do you watch a lot of TV shows? Would you enjoy working in Netflix? Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. Definitely. And questions to progress after you've answered the above. What do you need to learn to make this happen?
So these are more sort of coaching style questions once you've got that info. So it's almost like, where do you want to be? And then this little section is, okay, well, let's look at how we can get you there.
Right. What else do you need to do? Who do you know who can help guide you? No, brilliant.
Yeah. So again, these are more.
Yeah. Okay. I see what you're trying to do here.
Ignore that. Yeah.
No, I mean,
it's almost like I wanted to create almost like a worksheet that other people can look at, and by the end of it, they've got a rough idea of where they want to be, and they'll have a couple of starting ideas of, well, if I want to be doing that, I should probably start learning this language. So they could leave with data and a starting point. And so it's something I need for myself, but also I'd like to create this workflow for others. I mean, something like this probably even exists already, but or maybe it doesn't.
I don't know. I've seen a lot of people on Reddit asking similar questions, like being like, hey, I just graduated from this and that. What do I do with my life? How do I get to actually work in the field when I'm just graduate? You push ahead, right? You do focus on something, and finding out what you're really passionate about is a great way to do it, right? So as an overview, I mean, frankly, you've got a lot of really good questions there already. And I feel that this probably is, it's going to get you 70, 80%, the way of figuring out what you need. If I were not to look at these questions and just kind of think about, how did I end up doing what I'm doing and all the other jobs that I picked, how did I end up with these? I have to be honest that a lot of it came to random luck. So do account for that as well, that you will just, happen onto something when you're browsing the internet that you just go, hey, this is so cool. So paying attention to these things is very valuable, and you already have a method for it, those emotion logs, which is great. But it could be as simple as that, like random events happening, and no matter what you may come up with right now, those random events will alter your path. Which again doesn't really add much at this stage, I suppose, what I just said, but some of the things I did come out of just random luck. Yeah, quite frankly. Other than that, I'm really thinking about this one, because it kind of feels like all of them just came out naturally. I never had to ask myself these things. What am I really into? Like, I always knew what I'm really into since I was about 15. To me, the way I noticed these things was what am I doing when I'm not working, when I'm not studying? What is it that I do when I stop, studying for school? And then what is it I do after university? What is it that I do after I'm done with work? A job when I come back home.
Yeah.
And And that really helped me to figure out what I then want to go to university and study, what I want to, what kind of jobs do I want to be looking for later, and what kind of personal projects I want to go on to and do, and what extra things I want to be learning. That really helped me a lot to see what are my hobbies, because sometimes you'll spend playing video games and just doing Netflix and I don't know playing football. Right, so there are a lot of things that will not give you these answers. You can't really think, oh, I'm gonna, I'm playing football, so that's probably what I want to do as a programmer. That's not going to help you here, right? But amongst things that are sort of related somehow, like if in your free time you go up and read up about blockchain in particular, well, that may be a good idea to be looking at, right?
Yeah.
Whether blockchain is something that you find particularly interesting. I feel it's a good way to not only sort of notice that these things happen, but try to take a first few steps in that direction. So the moment you notice something like that, you go like, oh, wow, that's a super cool technology. Like they build these glasses that let you see, VR objects and like AR objects, right? To go, okay, well, let me see if I can find out how can I acquire the simplest set. Or how can I do it with my phone? Actually, AR can be done with your phone. It's not even the simplest, like, glasses or anything. How can I build a simplest AR app and spend, a weekend on it and see how much you dislike doing that? Because if within the day you just go like, fuck it, I'd rather go and do other things, you get a good answer. Maybe that isn't for you. But in many cases for me, it turned out to be, oh, I really, really want to pursue that further and further. And, days turn into weeks, into months, into years. And now I've got, a solid list of things that I'm enjoying doing. And I suppose even as I, went with my life and started doing these things, in the meantime, other things crawled in automatically. So again, without necessarily focusing on it, in the meantime, I'm noticing, hey, well, that other field that I keep on hearing about is so cool too. So why won't I, potentially in the future look into doing that as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That makes sense.
If I were to be more specific though, because we're still going on about you just rely on luck and things you stumble upon, pay attention to them, right? But if I were to more precise, I would probably go and subscribe to a number of Reddit groups. If you're on Reddit much, I don't know if you are.
No, never.
Right, so
I
haven't either until about a year ago. But then I found it more and more useful because it is a fairly good distillation of information that you can find there if you subscribe to the right channels. If you don't, then it can be a time waster and a frustrating tool. But it can be a pretty cool thing. I'm subscribed to things that are to do with machine learning, with AI, with algo trading, with Python development, learning how to code and all these things. And every now and then I see some interesting posts that are coming up that kind of spark my curiosity in a field that I wouldn't even be looking at. So browsing through it is sort of like a downtime for me. So I do it, I don't know, when I have my breakfast, right? When I have my lunch. Just to kill some time. And I kind of like to mix things in. So I also have photography Reddits I'm subscribed to. It doesn't feel like it's work. Like you don't want to make it, part of your daily routine, like it's a job, right? But just when I filled in my Reddit sort of subscriptions with things that I really do care about and kind of curated that list a little bit. With time, I started really observing how there's a lot of things that I do enjoy reading down there. So that would be maybe one concrete advice I would say is that, well, try to think of a list of, of 20 things that could potentially sound interesting to you and find Reddits that are related and subscribe to all of these. And just try from now and then, browsing it and see how, how some of these things might may be interesting, right? So out of these, you may start finding these sort of, things you may want to be doing in 20 years time, in 5 years time.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, because I guess I hadn't actually started that process yet because I've just been learning specific languages rather than learning about what I could do with them. You make a brilliant point. Just start having a fiddle, having a dabble, and see what you like, and then just follow that.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I would say that's pretty much what you did, and that's what I would guide people to do is start taking some steps. But I guess just looking at it, that was the thing. Is there a list of other things that I could look at
Well,
because
try
at the
the
moment,
map of computer science. That's probably
yeah,
the list.
exactly. Yeah, I'll check that. But because I'm sure there's more than 3 things. Those are the 3 that sort of sprung to me that I've come
just 3.
across,
That's all.
and I've thought, oh, I'd be happy with those 3.
Sure.
Well, I thought, oh, that's quite interesting, either because I can see the potential in it, or I'm really interested in it. So yeah, but I don't know. I mean, are those called technologies? Because isn't a language also a technology?
No. You sometimes use the word technology to speak about a language, but these aren't languages, and you probably wouldn't list.
So what's a domain then?
Well, that's just, you're asking a question in English language now, which I feel you'd be more of an expert on. To me, a domain is, I'd probably rather Google that than try to come up with something.
Yeah.
Define domain.
It's
go
more
and do that.
Domain versus like industry, if that makes sense. Because when people talk about domain knowledge, I don't know whether they're talking about the industry, the language, the technology, or all of the above.
I would say they depend on the person you're asking.
Yeah.
Because you could speak.
Well, this is
you could say that
at.
if you're. Yeah, I could for instance think that web development could be a domain. Now, you could be web development for finance or for social media or for casinos.
Yeah.
Right. So that would be the industries that I've just been listing, and then within these you could be doing the front end. You could be doing mean stack or whatnot, right? So that would be technologies.
Yeah.
That we speak about then. So, but then again, that's quite brief and broad, so quite subjective as well. Can you just quickly Google right there?
What do you want me to
define domain? Let's see what they come up with. An area of territory owned or controlled by a particular ruler of government, or a distinct subset of internet with address sharing a common suffix or under control of a particular organization or individual. Yeah, that's like a web domain, right? In physics, a discrete region of magnetism in ferromagnetic material. A set of possible values of independent variable or a function. See, very, very, very broad definitions we're getting here, right? Yeah, domain knowledge. A knowledge of a specific specialized discipline or field in contrast to general knowledge or domain independent knowledge. People who have domain knowledge are often considered specialists or experts in the field. Kind of makes sense, but then you can see it's it means what it means to you essentially, right?
Yeah.
You could say specialization as well, but you could say, well, I'm specialized in web development, or I'm specialized in Firebase, or I'm specialized in Firebase storage. Like you could go down and down and down and more granular with that. So again, quite broad. But you're asking really good questions. Unfortunately, there isn't like a very specific, distinction between many of these things. That's kind of the sad answer here, I would say.
No, that's cool. Well,
but
I think I'm starting to split it up, because even these things, even what I've just italicized here, like industry is separate to technologies, but obviously you can have both in play, because like I say, cloud in finance is different to cloud in sports data, same technology, different industry. So if you can ideally combine technologies you're interested in an industry you're interested in, then that's a good combo.
Yeah, also keeping in mind that we're speaking very broadly about these things. Cloud is such a broad thing as well. Like, in cloud, you could be doing so many things that you could easily specialize and do your life, spend your life just doing that one thing. So, these are very broad terms that, if you say, oh, do I like cloud? There are things about it you will like and things about it you won't. Right?
Yeah.
Which is when maybe we're making these categories a little bit too broad. Well, maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, but also a good point. And it's, like you say, saying I like cloud, there's obviously going to be parts that will be less enjoyable. And
definitely.
This is, it leads me back to something which I sort of not struggled with, but dealt with on my path, trying to find something that I enjoy, is knowing the difference between process and outcome. And for example, when I learned photography, I loved I'd say music production. I loved the end result, like the outcome, but wasn't really that interested in
the process.
Creating my own music. Same with beer. I wanted to get into brewing for a while.
Did you?
But then I realized the process and concept of brewing my own beer, boring as shit. I just love drinking it. And that was quite a good realization to have, because without enjoying the process, you're not going to enjoy the whole thing. So if you can enjoy the process and the outcome.
Absolutely.
That's a good distinction to make.
I'd even argue the opposite. It's more important to enjoy the process, not the outcome. Because if you like the process, but you don't like the outcome, or you're not as passionate about it as the outcome, well, you're still winning, because you will be doing the process. Like you will enjoy the thing that you're doing, even though maybe what's coming out of it at the end doesn't matter that much. I suppose a good comparison here I could bring, because you phrased something I've been thinking about for at least 10 years. When I met a lot of people that wanted to do things because they like the outcome. This is the way, I should be phrasing it. I wasn't, but you're putting it very, very well. Which frustrated me, because I thought these people really liked the process, and I tried to surround myself with these kind of people, and they really were caring about the outcome. And when it came to it, they were often just I don't want to say really bad at it, but you could tell that they are not in any way interested in the process itself, right? So as a person who was really into the process,
it's less sustainable as well, because you're not. If you don't enjoy the process, you're going to be less motivated to keep doing it.
Well, absolutely, yeah. You'd be very heavily unmotivated to do any of it. Essentially, it's going to be a chore. You should never go into something that you don't enjoy doing, as a long-term plan. If you have the choice, of course, that's a different thing. But if you are making a choice here, and you think, I really like mobile apps, mobile games, but you hate making them, God, never, don't do that. Which, you actually strike a very important chord. Give it a shot. Whatever you think about, give it a shot for a bit. I kind of briefly mentioned it to take a few steps in that direction, but don't sort of, say, I really think I'm going to enjoy AR, so I'm going to sign up for this 1 year long course on AR. No, do 2 months of it first and see how much of AR you actually do enjoy, right? Because it will be very different to what you think in most cases. That's the problem, right? I kind of mentioned the opposite before, where in AI, I thought it was something completely different. I thought I'm not going to be liking it, but when I got to doing it, I liked it so much more. And now I'm liking the process itself, which something
that was almost
I was
the opposite to
before.
me, because I got really enthused by AI, and then once I understood the ins and outs of it, I was less interested in it. I was like, it's pretty. It didn't energize me. Not to say it's boring,
right.
But it didn't energize me as much as the concept did and the outcome.
I'm gonna argue that you haven't had a chance to try it out truly, because you weren't a programmer. Because to me, the thing that really clicked is when I built my first sort of neural network. Super simple, but I could understand how it worked, because I did like a very from bottom up course, so I knew what it's doing quite well, and I could see it achieve something that blew my mind. That is when I fell in love. That's when I was like, wow. But it was a lot of maths and a lot of it derivatives and algebra and data science. So it's something I would never think I'd enjoy, right? So, and then actually everything else followed up. I got really into statistics, and I did a course on statistics, but only after I did all that other things that I knew I'd be liking it. Sorry, I interrupted you early on, so Karen.
No. But yeah, you're right. Yeah, because I wasn't a coder at the time, because I was going to data science conferences and thinking,
no.
What is this? This is not as exciting as I thought AI was. But again, it's because I didn't understand the inner workings of it.
Yeah, that's interesting.
People talking about repos. Had no idea what a repo was.
See what I mean? It was impossible for you to enjoy it, because if you don't know half of the language, imagine going to a conference in Chinese right now, assuming you don't speak Chinese. You could be on the most interesting thing in the world. You won't like it, right?
Good point.
So it's often about doing it. Like I say, push it for a few weeks, for a few days, as long as it sounds fun.
Yeah.
give it a shot, and a lot of things will come out then, I feel.
Yeah, that's brilliant. When we say what type of work will I be doing, what examples, like what options are there for that? Roughly, super generally. Like I could name you two different types of work.
No, I think this to me is what domains will I be working in? That's how I read this question.
Okay. And
so
how
yes,
would that then differ to
technology?
Question 1 and 3?
Right. So okay. So I would say, for instance, I already said web when I said domain, web, industry. Let's say finance, and then technologies. Angular and MongoDB or whatnot, right?
Okay, yeah.
So then another example I could think about maybe now would be where a domain would be game industry. Sorry, I just said industry, didn't I? So domain would be making games. Industry would be, I suppose, I don't know, mobile games or what other industry I can think about here.
Yeah, no, I get you. Yeah.
I don't know, MMOs, right? Et cetera, right? Massive multiplayer online RPGs.
Okay, yeah.
Like World of Warcraft, definitely heard of that, didn't you?
Gotcha. Yeah.
And then what technologies will I be using? Well, you'll be using, maybe cloud, because you need to do, cloud management for, World of Warcraft, whatnot, right? So yes, what type of work is to me is the most general question. So if I really would be answering these, then number 2 would be my number 1, really.
So I've just figured out, I think the languages in the stack is almost a subdivision of technologies. Because you kind of, it comes under there, I think, because you can be, to use the technology, you'll need specific languages.
Yeah, essentially, because technology will be doable in particular language, not in the other. But that really feels like a very irrelevant question. What stack languages am I going to be using? Because again, you can just reprogram yourself to a new language within a matter of months, and you'll be irrelevant.
I guess it's more for, like, if you really want to do blockchain, I'm guessing there'll be certain languages which are more predominant in blockchain, which then once you know what those languages are, that gives you an idea of how you can best use your time and what to learn over the next 3 months.
Oh, no. But that's, to me, that's a follow-up question. That to me goes into, so now that I know this, what languages do I need to go to learn it? But that to me goes to this like third section you had a little bit lower when you were like, how do I get there? So then, because my thinking is, right, if I really want to get into blockchain and I find out, I have to do a lot of C++, would you go like, oh, fuck this, I really, really just don't want to do C++. No, you'd go like, I really want to do blockchain. That's the important bit for me. Do I have to learn C++? Okay, well, I'm going to learn C++. Done. I'm not going to stop myself from doing it just because, I've been doing Python until now. Well, fuck this,
I'll just make a note. That makes sense.
But
this is it. So, wow.
Let's breathe.
It's going to take 8 seconds.
I thought we have to hold for 10. All right.
It'll go in a minute. It's got your timer. So this is brilliant because even in the last 20 minutes, we've come up with industry, domain, and technology. And I guess language is even a sub of this. So I'm starting to see the splits and the differentiation, which is brilliant.
Yeah.
And also what's relevant.
So I would still even put domain as the first question and industry as the second. Although you could argue they connected. They could be almost the same thing. But sort of you're going from the the biggest to the smallest. So first, big picture. What do you want to be doing? Is it you want to be building robots? Do you want to be, I don't know, building software? Do you want to be building web apps? Do you want to be building social media apps? I don't know. Right?
So there's quite a few. So it's not just web, mobile, and software. Then there's other things you can be doing. See, this is what I'm interested in because I don't know what those other options are.
Okay, well, I'm gonna freestyle and see if I can think about something else. Software, I wouldn't put that down because all you build is called software. Everything, web, mobile, robot, anything, right? Anything you will write is going to be called software.
Okay. By that, I meant like you're building a non-web app, if that makes sense. Like you're building something that appears here. What's that called then?
Program.
Okay, again, simple definition.
I mean, that's how I would call it. Is that going to be a program?
But yeah, like you see what I'm saying though? Like building a web app is going to be different to building
a mobile app, yeah. A mobile,
but also going to be different to building like
programs.
Yeah, like Photoshop is an app.
Yeah, it's a program.
But it's yeah. So maybe I'm just confused on the terminology.
No. I'll tell you what. Within about last 10 years, everything became an app, but they used to be called different. Nobody used the word app, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
In that context, you'd call them programs, as far as I'm aware.
Okay.
I guess again, this is up to interpretation. So you call it whatever you want.
Yeah, but in my head, I've made that distinction now.
Yeah. So anything that is sort of not on a web side, like not a web app, not a mobile app, that lives on your PC or your Mac, whatever, I would call that a program.
Gotcha.
But again, that's just me,
Yeah, but terminology aside, it's good that I've got that distinction now. Yeah, that makes sense.
So I'd also maybe think games. That could be another big sort of thing on the list here. In industry, I mean, I just thought about one, but should we list industries as well? Or
I'd like to, because even if it's just to get me started, because some of these can also be the same. Like if you're, how can I explain this? Like say you choose cloud as a industry, you could use the cloud, but you could also be making the cloud, if that makes sense. So you're in the same industry, but one of you're utilizing the technology, and the other one you're creating that technology.
I get it. Yeah. So in industries, definitely start with something like finance. That's an easy one. I would say, sports is another one. Medicine, another huge technology industry that can be really fascinating to work for. It's got a lot of backlog of you're doing the good for the world, which is brilliant.
Yeah, it intrigues me, that one actually.
Okay, so let's look at that and think what else can we do. Education. I'd say possibly social media could go down here.
Okay, I mean, we don't have to list all of them.
No, I get it.
That's a great start. Yeah. It's just to give me an idea of what, just a starting point, so I can flesh this out. Because obviously there's billions of them, but I just want to get the main, zoomed out.
And probably this is just to get you started, a few so you can then roll through and write more, right? Because
exactly,
definitely these wouldn't even be exhaustive.
Yeah, so this is brilliant because we are really fleshing this out now.
Cool.
So if we pluck one from each, like doing web development in the medicine industry, utilizing blockchain, working for a large company remotely.
Yeah.
So that is a great. It's a more specific direction than what I had half an hour ago. This is brilliant. I like this.
Cool. I would
it's taking shape.
Yeah, good. I would only suggest we change the word robots because it sounds odd. Robotics. I think that would sound better to me.
Yeah, that's cool, mate. Again, I can probably find a few more on these, but this is the sort of main ones for at least. Oh, hang on, what went on there? For me to have a starting point, because I can just Google list of industries, and I suppose these are kind of like the subheadings you'll have on a newspaper.
Yeah.
A lot of these, but then obviously a lot of them will be more popular and they'll have more job offerings depending on the industry. For example, there's probably more, I would guess, software development jobs in finance than there are in sports, I'm guessing, because there isn't much of there's probably less of a need for software when it comes to physical movement. Whereas finance, I'd imagine, leans more towards technology. I don't know.
It probably comes from the fact that in finance there's just more money and just more financing for projects. because sport, is a massive branch as well. Absolutely. There is also 3D graphics. I'm going to say it all together.
Is that in industry?
Yeah, industry, yeah. So there'll be, animation, visual effects, making films, making, 2D animation, even just so many things. That's, as you may or may not know, that's my background, actually. That's what I studied and that's what I worked in for a good while. So, I know quite widely what's in there. And kind of, you could say the game industry sort of could be falling under that. But I still feel like games almost feels like a different domain because you're doing very different things when you're making games as compared to when you're doing web development, mobile development,
Yeah, because I'm sure there will be some overlap between, I guess technically between all three. Because
correct.
Like you say, cloud could technically be an industry.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it will be a bit subdivision of technology, I guess.
It could be both, yeah. Like if you work, imagine if you're working for Amazon and helping them build AWS, you're working in the cloud industry using cloud technologies in
exactly,
web. But you could also be working in, in social media, utilizing cloud technology from Amazon, from AWS, right? So they belong to a number of categories, Yeah.
No, this is brilliant. I like it. Okay, mate.
No, cool.
I'm happy with that. Yeah, that's brilliant. That's that's given me some starting points now to go and have a look at, because it's this extending this list is what I'm sort of intrigued about now.
Okay.
Just to get an idea of what's out there. And I like the Reddit tips, so I'm gonna.
Oh yeah, I would even encourage you. Sorry for interrupting just there, but I would encourage you to go through that map of computer science, list what's written there, go on Reddit. And on like some big, computer science discussion, make a post. Hey guys, this is my list that I got from this video. And I was wondering, what is missing? What else is out there? And just see what else people dump onto it. And you'll get at least a few new hits, And it's an interesting question as well. Very interesting. I don't think many people would be seeing that type of questions, going on a lot. Or maybe they do. So do, search Reddit through and various forums. Maybe people have asked that.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. That's given me something to chew on, and also a template for something which could be useful for others. So thank you very much for your input, mate. That's awesome.
Cool. Very nice. I very much enjoy talking about that. So let me know where that goes.
Yeah, cool. And I'm pretty sure, you've got access to this document anyway. So feel free to add any notes if you something springs to mind. But
cool.
Yeah, I've got plenty to get on with, mate. So I guess we can wrap up today's session if you like.
Can we? All right. That sounds
yes,
like
I would allow it.
Yeah, only 3 hours long, was it?
Wicked. Okay then, mate. Well, that's been a great help just getting that list sorted. So that's given me plenty to think about. And obviously I've got my things to crack on with over the next couple of days, including tests, reading and the like. And so I've learned a lot today. What have we done? 3 hours. Wow.
Yeah.
So thank you as always, mate. Really
no
appreciate
worries.
It.
I like these talks too, as you know, so it's all good. I'll follow up with the exercise for tests. I'll try to make it small this time.
Yeah, cool. No, I appreciate that, mate. Whenever you're ready, because like I said, I've always got something to do, so no pressure on my end for getting that sorted. But that'd be cool. I'm intrigued by that, because I think I've seen a bit of it on Edabit, because that's how they test your answers, I think. So I don't know. Is that a test?
You could think about it this way, yeah.
Yeah. So it's almost like you put input in it and then see if it comes out with the correct output.
That's right.
So, it was very basic, but I got the impression that was a form of test. It was cool to see that.
Yeah, well, you got a concept already then.
Yeah. Cool, I'm looking forward to it then, mate. All right, let's wrap it up.
Let's wrap it up then. Well, Sam, I see you next week.
Will do, tune in.
All right, man. We're going to do another awkward ending.
Oh, what? No, thank you as ever, mate.
Awkward enough.
Wicked.
Awkward
really,
enough.
Thank you.
Well done.
Just looking at my note. Yeah, I've got nothing else, mate. That was amazing, just that extra little bit. So thanks for running through that with me.
That's
fine. So I'll have a couple of beers probably and have a think about that. And then, we'll just check in. And we're done, mate. Go and enjoy your evening. Go and see Marina. Give her a big smooch. And I'll give you a shout in a couple of days.
Take it easy, man.
Wicked.
Ciao.
See you, buddy.
Bye-bye.
Bye.